Namaste Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Tatchit Sukhat Parupaya Swamine Tapaharini. We are extremely delighted to have Dr. Indranil Basu Ray, who is a medical doctor with MD, DNB, FA, CP and FACC, who has been doing a lot of research on yoga, pranayama, etc. He is the chairman of the American Academy for Yoga and Meditation in the United States of America. He is a renowned doctor as well as a renowned yogi, a practitioner as well as a theoretician. He will speak on the power of pranayama, the science of breathing. Swami Vidya Pradhananda, who is coordinating this whole event, will introduce Dr. Indranil Basu Ray.
Good evening, all participants. Today, the 11th.
Good morning for you.
Yeah.
And good morning, Dr. Basu Ray.
Good morning.
Today, the 11th of June, in the webinar series of Science of Pranayama, we have amongst us respected Dr. Indranil Basu Ray from Tennessee in the United States. I take this opportunity to introduce our eminent speaker to the audience today. Dr. Indranil Basu Ray is a staff cardiologist and cardiac electrophysiologist and the director of cardiovascular research at the Memphis Veterans Medical Center in Memphis, Tennessee in the United States. Concurrently, he is the adjunct professor at the University of Memphis. He is the chairman of, he is a visiting professor of cardiology and the head of integrative cardiology at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences at Rishikesh, Uttarakhand. Recently, he, under his editorship, the world's first reference book written by multiple authors on the cardiovascular aspects of yoga has been published. The title of the book is The Principle and Practice of Yoga in Cardiovascular Diseases. He is also the editor of a popular book on cardiology, which has over 40 authors contributing to it from all over the world. Dr. Basu Ray has been meditating since early age and he has learned Kriya Yoga from his guru. He is also trained in Vipassana tradition and he has been practicing, teaching and researching on meditation for over 3 decades now. Dr. Basu Ray, we are really privileged to have you amongst us in this webinar. We request you to please start your talk today.
Thank you very much, Swamiji. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I don't think I have that good introduction. I'm worth it, but with all your blessings and with blessings of Swami Atmapriyananda ji, I'm going to start. And my guru, you can see my guru in the back. So let's get started. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, and you can hear me clearly, right, Swamiji?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So today I'm going to talk about pranayama, which is, we'll explain little. I mean, unfortunately, most people don't know. Many people think pranayama is breathing. Pranayama is not breathing. Swami Vivekananda himself had said that. So we'll understand a little more about pranayama and understanding what breathing and the pranayama, of course, there's a relationship. And what is the relationship? We'll understand the powerful science of pranayama, which has been there for, 6,000, 10,000 years. And we will also bring in modern science and latest research that shows the power of pranayama. So let's get started. So it's important to understand how to breathe properly because breath is life. Breath is creation. The entire universe is nothing a macrocosm of vibrations. And your body is also vibration. And how you want to vibrate? You want to vibrate like a common human being. You want to vibrate like a more powerful being. It depends on how you are breathing. So it's very important to understand the breathing, which seems a very menial task because even when you are not thinking, you're still breathing. So who cares? But what we don't understand is breathing without being conscious of your breathing is as good as being dead or as good as being a lower animal. Like we are human beings, we live, we are born, we procreate because we have to increase our species, we take care of our children, then we die. Even a snake does that, or even an animal does that. So what is the difference between you and an animal? The difference is this is breath, how you take your breath. Where does a breath take you? That is the root of understanding the importance of pranayama. So, as I said, most of us have been breathing wrong. So let's understand today what real breathing is and how it takes us and where it takes us. So all of us know breathing in and breathing out. This is what we do. 99% of us, and at 99% of the time, is not even conscious that we are breathing. It just happens automatically. So breathing is a mechanism by which we take in air and push the air, as you can see in this figure, inside a lung, and there are multiple millions. There are more alveoli than stars in this galaxy. And each of these balloons that you see here, they are places where oxygen is brought together with the blood and the blood is oxygenated. The problem is most of these lungs that you see, the upper part of the lungs, 300, 400, in some people up to 600 cubic centimeter of space is wasted. Why is it wasted? Because one of the two things happen. Either there is no oxygen there or there is oxygen but no blood there. So in case there is oxygen but no blood, or there is blood, no oxygen, there is no aeration. If there is no aeration, there is no energy transfusion. So it's important to understand that proper breathing is important because it affects the whole body. It supplies energy and oxygen supply and energy production, improves focus and concentration. That is more important. So breathing, your thoughts depend on your breathing. When your thoughts are stressful, you breathe fast and your brain is like an ocean undergoing a storm. There are huge waves. So it's very important. Breathing helps to eliminate toxin. That's why most of the rishis who have been practicing pranayama for a long time, they not only have a long life, but they have an excellent memory. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, in this stressful world where there is financial problems, over 1 million people died due to COVID. 70% of death even today is due to non-communicable disease like heart disease and cancer. It helps in relaxation and with a large number of diseases, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So it's important to understand that there are breathing has to be conscious because unconscious breathing, as I said, and we'll talk a little bit about that, breathing controls your mental power. So breathing, it's important that breath has to be conscious, and breath has to be in a way that your whole lung as well as your stomach should be involved in your breathing. Let's take a look at this movie. So watch the breath. It starts with movement of the abdomen and then the whole chest moves. Most of us breathe where part of the chest moves. There's no movement of the abdomen at all. So if your diaphragm is not active, as you see in this picture, that is an inefficient breath because, as I said, 300 to 400, some people even 600 cc's of space in a lung is wasted. So that's wasted space is wasted energy. Wasted energy is a tumultuous brain because brain and breathing is very closely linked in human beings. And this is nothing that science just discovered. This is something we know for the past 6,000 years since Patanjali wrote his yoga treatise. So it's important to understand and train how to breathe. And it is indeed tragedy that we have these thoughts, we have this process for thousands of years, but we never give it importance. Now that modern science is coming with proof, and then suddenly everybody is interested in breathing and pranayama. But anyway, so let's understand this. So as I said, pranayama is not breathing. Pranayama is control of prana. So the body comes in multiple layers, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And you control the flow of prana. Why? Because the whole universe, as I said, and including what now we are slowly understanding using quantum physics, is that it's all vibration at different levels. So, and that vibration is, our human body is also vibrating, but of course at a much lower level of vibration. That's why we are material objects. We see ourselves as material objects. But you can change your level of vibration based on how you do your breathing. And that's what the control of pranayama is. There are different types of pranayama. I'm not going to discuss them today because most of them needs actual to show how they do, what they do, how the breath is. So it's for another day. But it is important to understand that the core understanding, if you understand one thing from this lecture, that is, breathing regulates your nervous system. That might seem strange, but that is the truth. You want to get a fantastic memory, you want to live a life completely peaceful without stress, only thing you have to do is control your breathing, because the brain thoughts comes from your breathing. How you breathe, that decides how much thoughts you have in your brain. People who have trained their breathing can remain thoughtless or go into samadhi. And of course, there are other benefits also, which are much less than that, it helps to focus the mind, it helps you take in oxygen, and of course, it generates nitric oxide. There is no drug known till today that can generate nitric oxide in your vascular system. For people who are not physicians, this means one simple thing. You can generate nitric oxide, you'll never ever have a heart attack. You'll never ever have a stroke. You'll never ever have any diseases of your circulation. Some people believe even cancer. You'll not have inflammation, for example, which killed thousands due to COVID. So it's important to understand that we have this technique for thousands of years because yogis knew this. So then you might tell me, why did yogi not tell it to common people? Because common people wouldn't understand this. I mean, they would think this guy is crazy, this guy is talking nonsense. Because there is it's important to understand there are two types of knowledge. A yogi sees a whole tree and understands that the root takes in water, gives it to the whole tree. So he gets to see the whole tree, he gets to see the whole universe. A scientist looks at the root, then traces it up to the trunk, then traces it to the leaf and the branches, and then starts seeing the tree. So science gives a fractionated view of the whole thing. So both ultimately is the same, but the way you approach is different. And that's what it is important to understand, that the yogic view is equally important. You might say there was no research, they didn't have a lab. So what lab did Einstein work to discuss that the relativity? No, in 1906 when he came, this is a thought process he had. There was no lab which could prove that. In fact, Einstein's theory was not accepted for next 4 years till it was shown that light is in fact bending 4 years after he came. That's when Einstein became a celebrity. So it's important to understand that the yogic way of understanding the universe is equally important. Everything that modern physics, quantum physics says today is supposed to be complete nonsense, because none of them have been proved. String theory is there for 30 years, but nobody has seen a string. So the question is, does that mean it is useless? No. Hypothesis creates science, and science supports hypothesis. So yogis had an understanding of the entire universe, whereas science is trying to achieve that in its own ways. So it's important to understand that and not be blind to what is happening and what is not happening. So the good thing is that last 10, 20 years, we have tons of research in pranayama. And these research are by who? These research are by people who are physicians, who are scientists. They are not from India. They have never done yoga in their life. They don't know what yoga is. So these are the best researchers. Why? Because they give you a non-biased picture of the power of pranayama. So if today Indranil Basu Ray does a research, people will say, oh, he is biased because he supports yoga. So you don't want bias in medicine. In medicine, the last thing you want is any form of bias. And that's what we have thanks to the research in the last 20, 30 years. Most of them was outside India. Nowadays, research in India has also increased a lot, but most of them have been outside India. So breathing takes an important role in diseases and treatment, and we'll come to that. And this is a new understanding in medicine. That's why it's getting what is known as integrative medicine. Before, they used to call it complementary medicine, which means the main treatment is medical pharmacological drugs, whereas it can be complemented by things like yoga and other things. The concept is completely changing, and now the new name is integrative medicine, because in some diseases, you just need yoga, you just need changes in lifestyle, you don't need any medicine. In fact, medicine does things work, may do things worse. For example, take diabetic. You take insulin, your blood sugar will look good. So who will it keep happy? It will keep the doctor who's treating you happy. Will you be happy? No. Because insulin causes inflammation. Insulin will cause more atherosclerosis and cause heart attack. So giving insulin is not a treatment. And we have understood that slowly. So the treatment in diabetes is practice of yoga in its full length, not just doing some monkey dance and thinking that you've done a lot of yoga. Asanas is just a small part of yoga. So it is important to understand that the whole medicine is changing, science is changing, and we need to accordingly understand and go from there. So what we will do, we will talk about some of the diseases, some of the research on yoga before we actually get an understanding of how yoga works, how pranayam works. So the good news is this has been used over in multiple, starting from the world's topmost cancer center, MD Anderson. Everywhere people have used the pranayama, and breast cancer, as you know, is the largest killer in the Western Hemisphere in ladies. And there are tons of studies which show, and in fact, nowadays, even Tata Memorial in Bombay has started doing yoga research on cancer patients, which is a shame that we have the world's #1 hospital in America starting it way before, and now we are following. Whereas yoga itself comes from India. And so-called our pseudo-intellectual people in India says that, oh, this is not science, this is ritual, this is religion. Yoga has nothing to do with any religion or even God. I mean, the strict sense of the term, if you read Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he doesn't talk about any God as such. He doesn't say that you need to pray to this God to get your kopa, because yoga is a manual. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is a manual of how you do yoga, what you do yoga. And out of the 196 aphorism, only 3 aphorism has physical yoga. What does that mean? That means physical yoga, which is 99% of yoga practice all over the world, is complete nonsense. It's just a small 5% of yoga. 99% of yoga is the other wings. And slowly we'll learn that when you practice yoga, you'll slowly see how powerful yoga is in its entirety and not just doing asanas. So yogic breathing, if you look at it, has got huge physiological and psychological benefits. Physiological, as I told you, starting to prevent heart attack, cancer, and a bunch of other things, COVID. Psychological benefit, of course, you control the mind. If you control the mind, there's an old saying that once who controls his mind controls the entire universe. So that is how it comes. It has beneficial effect in multiple diseases. Of course, we'll talk a little bit of that in today. So this is the funny part, that it is so powerful that not only it helps, not only it helps people, but it has even effect in the maternal-fetal state. This is something that is very important because I don't know how many of you know the Mahabharata story that Arjun's son did not, when he was pregnant and when his wife was pregnant and he was Abhimanyu, he was explaining how to come out of the battle formation. He knew how to enter, but he didn't know how to come out. So this is, of course, a story has nothing to do with this. But the funny part is, today we know that maternal, whatever you tell to a pregnant female practicing pranayama has effect on the fetus. It stabilizes the fetal heart. It increases blood flow to the fetus. So it is, though this is a story from Mahabharata, but what I want to say is that this shows the power of the mind that people who discovered yoga thousands of years back, at that time they understood that even a fetus inside a mother's womb can be influenced. And today we have tons of studies on that. Of course, in mental health, yoga has a very strong role, starting from depression to anxiety and to a bunch of places, it has a wrong role. But the problem is stress, because stress is associated with disease. And when we have stress, and stress could be due to any reason, financial problems, a problem in your workplace, problems in the family, have elderly parents who are sick, these causes chronic stress, and chronic stress leads to systemic inflammation, which in other term, for the common man, that means a bunch of diseases. And the diseases, as I said, could be hypertension. 1.5 million people all over the world have hypertension. Diabetes, 3 out of 4 people in India has diabetes. India is becoming the diabetic center of the universe. So what is important to understand is that the psychological stress causes a lot of problems in every human being that comes with chronic stress. It makes you less effective as a human being. How? Number one, it opens the doors to a bunch of diseases. Number two, psychologically, when you're stressed, you're less effective in relationship and in communicating with people. You're less creative. There's a decrease in the wish to achieve something in life, to fulfill life. So what happens is that you're always fighting with yourself. So when you're fighting with yourself, you're not one full self anymore. And that is what rishis understood thousands of years back. That's why they said, when you do breathing techniques, you calm and cool the mind. This fight that you're fighting 24/7, 365 needs to be decreased. Your mind needs to be that pond, as Vivekananda explained. You can have a pond you can see all the fishes, you can see the bottom of the pond. Now you start throwing stones, you'll see ripples all over. So our brain is rippled with not only, our brain is not only has ripples, our brain actually has maelstrom, huge waves, 24/7, 365. So we cannot think properly. And we cannot think properly, so we cannot work properly, because you need the brain to do that. So you're thinking, you're working based on your spinal cord, not your highest power in your brain. So you start doing reflex. What do I mean by working and thinking in terms of spinal cord? What it means is, you teach a baby who's swimming to learn swimming. He may be 2 years old or she may be 2 years old. And then you teach her swimming or teach him swimming, then you throw him into the water, he'll automatically swim. He's not going to use his brain. He doesn't even have a brain that is developed. That's called working from the spinal cord. And that, unfortunately, is what we do 24/7, 365, because the most powerful instrument that God has given us, we cannot use it because it is lost in the tornado or maelstrom of stress. Okay, so these are some of the studies to show you. There's a bunch of studies. There are, I mean, my subject, which is cardiology, is possibly one of the most researched subject in the world, because there are millions and millions of dollars involved. So today I'm slowly seeing cardiology is being replaced by yoga. There are hundreds and thousands of papers coming out in yoga, including in top journals like Nature. I'll show you a Nature paper shortly, where all the Nobel laureates write. So it is important to understand that there is tons of research in every aspect of brain. One of the biggest problem, as I said, with as you know, both Europe and Germany has gone into recession. Is it causes a lot of trauma in people because almost 70,000 to 100,000 people have lost their jobs from just 5 companies: Amazon, Google, Microsoft. Just 5 companies kicked out around 70 to 100,000 people. So there's job losses. Thankfully, India has not, and India still has a strong economy. Hopefully, we keep it like that. But the fact remains that this causes a lot of trauma. And these trauma has to happen if you're there on earth. That's why it is said that Buddha said, I don't know if it's really Buddha who said, that if you're born on earth, suffering is mandatory. The suffering is mandatory, but pain is mandatory, but suffering is optional. So whether if you're God, like Jesus Christ put up and they put nails all over his body. When Vivekananda's father died, there were days when his mother could not be even fed because they were in such a poor status. So these are people who are Shiva, who are the creator of the universe. But when they are born on earth, they have to go through those spells. So who are you and I? We also have to go through the spell. That's why, as Buddha said, pain is mandatory, but whether you want to suffer through it is completely optional. And that's where pranayama comes in. So now, with all the science, let me try to give a basic understanding of how pranayama works. I want to be very clear out here. We still do not understand the scientific mechanism because pranayama is one of the most powerful mechanisms that has been discovered as part of yoga to completely change human being from his existence as a simple, normal human being to even being so-called gods or avatar or even higher than that. Because the whole world, the whole universe is energy. There are multiple universes. There are different cocoons of energy. And how to go into the different worlds, you need that higher level of energy to know that. As long as you're on earth, you have a particular level of energy. So the mechanism to do that is a practice of pranayama. So pranayama is a breath technique which actually controls your prana. Now, yoga, as I said, is much beyond the physical practice. You do asanas. Is it beneficial? Absolutely. Asanas is absolutely beneficial, but it just gives you tiny benefits because it is just 5% of the entire spectrum of yoga. And is asana as an exercise better than other exercise? Absolutely. There has been research on Pilates and a couple of other exercise which people love to do just because it's a foreign name. And we now know that there's been study which has been published in the American Journal of Family Medicine that yoga is more powerful than these techniques, these exercises to decrease, say, your blood pressure. So that is important to understand. But having said that, asana is highly restricted. The whole yoga is a complete set of things which you understand. One is, as I said, we were talking about it, we'll talk a little more today, is breath control, that is pranayama. But then comes withdrawal of the senses because your mind tends to go out and catch everything that is important, which it thinks it's important. Most of them are actually not important. Why? Because we are the slaves of the mind. We should be the controller of the brain. We should be the controller of our mind. But 99% of us are slaves of the mind. Mind takes us to different places and we jump around just like a monkey, as Swami Vivekananda said. So you have to control and withdraw your senses. And then there comes dharana, which is concentration. I mean, in America, for the first couple of years, last 5-10 years, there's been a big way about mindfulness, as if they discovered mindfulness for the first time. We have mindfulness part of yoga for the last 10,000 years. There's nothing new in that. That is one of the stages by which you can concentrate your mind. And then you, of course, you go to meditation or meditative state called dhyana. Samadhi is something that is beyond modern medicine's understanding, but we have some proof of it. We have some understanding of it, and I'll just say it like this. So samadhi is a place where there's a complete change in consciousness. So now it is clearly being understood that the universe is basically a play of consciousness or energy. And this consciousness is at different levels depending on you. Like snake has its own consciousness, so it can take care of its babies, feed its babies. You have your own consciousness and you behave like a normal human being. And there are people who have super conscious. They are the ones we call avatar or God or whatever it is. So it is at a different level of existence happens based on your physical consciousness, and consciousness and your vibration goes together. We don't know the exact understanding. We have some understanding by practicing meditation for many years, but we still do not know the science, and that's a long way to go. But what I meant to say in this particular slide is that it is important that you practice every aspect of yoga and not just asanas, which is what is done most of the time. So it's important to understand it's important to understand the spiritual design, because if you don't understand the spiritual design, it is difficult to understand the science also. So whether it accepts or not, like I'm a cardiologist, I go inside the heart of patients. I'm a particular type of cardiologist called interventional electrophysiology. So I go inside the heart all the time, and I don't see the three different bodies. But yoga says that we have three different bodies within us. Whether you believe in that, that's not important, because belief comes with practice. And that's why my guru, Swami Hariharananda Giri, from the powerful Kriya Yoga tradition, once said, a ton of theory equals to 1 ounce of practice. So once you practice, you understand that is what it is. Because, I mean, it's very simple, you see. I mean, in Benares, you will find tons of people who have learned first to last word of Gita, who can cramp and tell you every word of some of the Upanishads. But are they more happy than you and me? No. They're equally frustrated, equally stressful. So what is the use of cramping all this literature if you do not understand it? And that's very important to understand. And that's where modern science and yoga differs. If you read a book, modern science says you got the knowledge of the book. But that's not true for yoga. If you read yoga, you will have information about yoga. There is difference between information and knowledge. Knowledge is something that comes through experience. That is the difference between yoga and modern science. And modern science have slowly come to understand that when you read something, you get the information, but you cannot understand or have a complete knowledge unless you walk through it, you pass through it, you experience it. Yoga is an experiential science. So somebody who has not practiced yoga has no right to say what is right and what is wrong. So we have these three bodies. The basic thing that I wanted to make you understand is that, so in the gross body, like the one body which I see every day in hundreds of patients, even when I go inside their heart, I just see blood vessels, nerves, and other things. But this subtle body, which is the energy body, that's the level where prana works, that body does not have, that body also has what is called nadis. These are the channels through which energy is transmitted. There's different literature which says, according to the literature, there may be different amount of nadis. Shiva Samhita says that 350,000. But it is generally believed there are around 72,000 nadis. And what is important is that the central channel goes through the spinal cord, and this is called the Sushumna. And the central channel also has other smaller branches. We'll not talk about that in today's talk. And some of these branches can be seen when you go into deeper meditation or deeper meditative practices. But the idea is this channel, as you can see, it crosses the human being, it goes over the human being. It is not restricted to the human being. So our energy body can sometimes be even bigger. Actually, the bigger energy, when you see a picture of Ramakrishna, you see that glow. When you see a picture of Vivekananda, you see a glow. What is that? Because these people have very powerful energy bodies, which maybe goes through infinite. We don't know, because science is still at its infancy. Science has no understanding of it. So this is the body, that this is the energy body. And this energy body's importance is that your physical body is completely controlled by your energy body. So that's why when you practice pranayama, you're not just breathing. What you're exactly doing is you're changing your breath. You're changing your breath. And I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of problem with this. I'm not sure why. So basically, as I was talking, the life forces is at play when you have breathing. And these are the different chakras. I won't go to them. They are basically a bunch of places inside the spinal cord where multiple nerves come together. There are endocrine glands. So it's a neuroendocrine junction where you can, by the practice of meditation, you can raise your energy. And there are different types of breathing. Again, we'll not go into those details today, but these breathing helps to cause this one. This is Avatar Babaji, the founder of the Kriya Yoga system. So there are different breathing techniques by which you can activate, not only activate the prana, but push the prana up. So the basic concept is very simple. When we are born, the kundalini, or the core of the energy is basically lives in the brain, in the sahasrara. But when we are born, this kundalini is pulled down into the basic chakra or the muladhara. Why? Because the lower three chakras are the core places that you need to live on earth. You need to have, you need to stay on earth. You need to live a normal life. You need to procreate. You need to eat. So all the energies are divided among the three chakras. And 99.9% individual pass their entire life living in the three chakras. But when you are practicing meditation, all that you do, you raise the level of awareness, of consciousness or energy. It doesn't matter what you call it, because we don't have a name for it. This is, as I said, as my guru once said, tons of theory equals an ounce of practice. Because once you practice, then you see the energy center goes higher up in your body. And then you start unraveling those things. Like we're in a... Based on the M theory, which is the latest part of the string theory, we have 11-dimensional universe. Do we see the 11-dimensional universe? No, because we are not meant to see it. We are meant to see a very restricted view of the universe, which is far from the truth. And that's why possibly the saints called it virtual reality or Maya, because this is not the reality. This is a reality. We have to live in this, because if we try to see the complete reality, we'll get mad, we'll get crazy. Like suppose I buy 4 liters of milk, and then tomorrow my boss says, okay, you go over to India. So then what do? You live next to me. So I go to you and say, hey, can you take, I bought 4 liters of milk. My boss is sending me outside. My milk will be wasted. Would you mind taking it? You say, yes, I'm going to take it. And then what do? You bring a small bowl and say, okay, give me 4 liters of milk. Will 4 liters of milk go into the small bowl? No. So similarly, will that massive energy, when Ramakrishna touched Vivekananda was always questioning his guru. When he touched Vivekananda, he saw like the burst of 1,000 suns, massive energy. So you need to create that brain which can take that energy. You have a small, you're bringing me a small bowl to take 4 liters of milk. That doesn't happen. So this is the practice of pranayama. Pranayama is not breathing. Pranayama is a practice to increase the size of your brain so you can take this massive power that comes understanding of the entire universe. As I said, multiple universes are being created every minute. Multiple stars are being created every minute. And we have to, and you can create your own reality using this. So these are a couple of studies I just wanted to show. This is published in Nature, actually, which actually shows that what we know for many years, that when you practice meditation, Vivekananda had a massive memory, and anybody who practices meditation will have a massive memory. Why? Because 35% of people 85 and above suffer from dementia in this Western world, and they live in nursing homes. They don't know their name. They don't know their children's name. They don't know any other names. So, but now we know that. Hello. Now we know that people, when you practice meditation, it increases the CSF flow, and that increases the capacity of brain to get rid of all the dirt. And when that happens, you see there is all complete, people never have dementia. Sannyasis have lived till 100, 120 years. They have a clear-cut brain. Not only that, meditation and pranayama also increases the size of your brain. In 2010, a research study from Harvard showed that your brain size increases when you practice this. So these are and so that it is not strange that people like Vivekananda have such magnificent memory, because we now know from scientific research that these are not just stories which have been thrown away by saying, oh, that is just because you love Vivekananda, you are making stories about him. No, this is a real fact. These are all science. These are by people who do not even know who people like Vivekananda was. And it is they who showed the world that the power of pranayama. Brahmari, we talked about Brahmari. Brahmari is one of the most powerful way to increase nitric oxide in the blood. And as I said, blood is very important. Your brain lives on blood. You can go to the world's best restaurant and have the best Chinese food, doesn't matter. Your brain eats only oxygen. So people with super powerful brain needs to be super oxygenated. I'll just tell you one thing because this is my personal experience. Once upon a time that happened that my guru was traveling to one of his place. I wanted to go with him. So I met him in the Shialda station, and he was just sitting in his in one of the seats. As usual, during those times, trains were always late. Most trains were late by many hours. So he had a small blood coming out from his feet. I saw that blood. He didn't even know. He didn't even feel it. That blood was bright red. It's almost the blood you see in movies, because in the movies, there's no real blood. These are all ketchups, or I don't know what they are, bright red. So every day I go into the hearts of people and see their actual blood. I make them bleed every day. That's my job as an electrophysiologist. Till now, I've never seen anybody's blood that bright. It almost looked like that my guru didn't have real blood. He had some other things, because I've never seen such bright blood. So those comes with years of meditation practice. But anyway, let's go to the next thing. So that is what Brahmari does. Brahmari also, Kapalabhati Pranayam also changes your aging, changes your breathing technique, increases HRV. Now all of us have watches nowadays, Apple Watch, Samsung Watch, and you can actually check your HRV through them. Before I go, I want to bring out this one. Aging is an important process, and now we know how aging can be actually slowed by yogic techniques, particularly pranayama. Aging occurs because of a long things, because the cells age. When the cells age, your hairs go white, your skin becomes wrinkled. And in 2009, Elizabeth Blackburn got Nobel Prize to show that what happens in the cell is there's every cell has got a tail. The tail is called telomeres, and the telomeres has an enzyme called telomerase that breaks down the telomeres and the cell ages. So when the cell ages, you have blocks in your heart and you have a heart attack. Your lung gets damaged because your lung stops doing what it's supposed to do. But now we know that meditation causes stability at the genic level and may also decrease your aging process. Not only directly at the cellular level, but again, as I said, even other levels also. For example, your brain grows. So after 30 years of age, every one of us are losing 300 to 400 neurons. So that by the time you're 90, your brain becomes from a 1600 cc brain, it becomes smaller and smaller, that your brain is almost like a monkey. So every 10 years, if you do a CT scan, you will see your brain shrinking smaller and smaller. And that's why by the time you're 80, 85, 35% of people have severe dementia. They don't know who they are. They don't know their name. They don't know who their son, daughter is, who their house is. But this is not seen in yogis who practice meditation and pranayama. Why? Because the brain itself grows. There is implication that 5 years of meditation actually increases your brain by 1 inch. Till today, there is no drug that can help with dementia. We have 3 drugs, all of them are useless. Just now, a drug came out, which the FDA, America's highest body, approved. Why did they approve? They approved because not that the drug is great. The drug is actually quite bad. They approved because there is absolutely no other medicine in the field. And the funny part is 11 people are needed to approve it. And after its approval, 6 got majority and approved it. 5 other people who did not approve amongst those 11 resigned because they thought that the drug should not be approved because it is useless, plus it is super costly. So this is the status of modern science. And what you can do is sitting in your own home and practice. You don't have to go to a doctor. You don't have to go spend thousands of rupees to go to a hospital. So this is where the power of yoga is that we have got standing on the shoulders of people like Gautama Buddha, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna. So we don't need new godfathers to explain to us what it is. We have it. It's the time to sit down and practice and learn and then use it in our life. So let's start our breathing practice today. I'll stop here and I can answer any questions. But before that, Swamiji talked about the book. I'll show you the book. So this is the book, The Principal Practice of Yoga in Cardiovascular Medicine. It is available in Amazon in India as well as the world. This is the world's first book written by over 79 authors from all over the world. They're all allopathic doctors. It's not that they're non-allopathic. They're all allopathic doctors from Harvard, from Emory, with extensive research in yoga. So it details all the cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, diabetes, and how yoga can be used to both manage them, treat them, and also prevent them. I'll stop here. Swamiji, over to you.
Thank you so much for a very powerful presentation. Is there any questions from the audience? You can directly talk or put it in the chat box. So I think everybody seems to be breathing hard. So any questions? Can you explain?
I hope the presentation was clear and everybody could hear it, because some people wrote in the chat box that they could not hear it.
No,
I hope that
very clear. It's very clear.
Okay.
Can you just discuss briefly the Ajapa technique with the Kriya Yoga use? I've been always very fascinated with the technique.
Well, the thing is that what happens is that when you do mantra or japa, there are a couple of things that happen. Number one, people who have started doing japa, like brand new people, not who are doing it, their brain wave starts changing. So normal human being has beta waves, which is fast wave. And this wave, unfortunately, looks like the brain is super active, but actually brain is most inactive when it has such big waves. Exactly as Swami Vivekananda explained, it is like a pond with a lot of ripples. But as you go into meditation, you start having slower waves like alpha waves. Then you have even slower waves, that is theta and gamma waves, theta and delta waves. Now, whenever you people with, let's say, young kids whose brain is super inactive by having beta waves, when they start practicing the technique, you will slowly find within 4 weeks, their brain completely changed. That's number one. Number two, what happens is that the neurochemistry of the brain changes. So human beings' neurochemistry is like that we are always looking for pleasures. So there's always more and more dopamine being released. Okay, today I'm invited for this. Tomorrow I want to get that prize. Day after tomorrow I want to pass my A. So every time dopamine, just like as Sri Ramakrishna said, you're like a cow in front of which there is hay. So you're always going around. And what is happening? The cow never gets the hay, but the guy who's minting money out of that cow, his oil gets created. So every human being, we think it is just a cow, what a stupid animal. But you think we are equally stupid. Well, that's exactly what we are doing. Dopamine is making us run round and round. So Sri Ramakrishna said that so many people say he is illiterate, he has not studied. What do you need a study when you know the entire universe? You don't need to have a formal degree and PhD and MD when you know the entire universe. So that's the fun part of it. That's number two. So the brain changes its chemistry. And you see, what is addiction? Addiction is nothing. Addiction is when you do not have enough alcohol, you generate that dopamine. And the moment you get alcohol, the dopamine goes and again you generate alcohol. That's what addiction is. It is a play between the frontal lobe and your emotional centers. So the world is very simple, and our sannyasis knew that thousands of years back. So that is the second thing. Third thing is now what we know. Coming to educated and educated, we have so many gurus nowadays who have no education. They just landed up in some ashrama, and after 60 years, they become huge gurus doing all sort of nonsense. So the difference is this, that people practicing even 20,000 hours of meditation, their brain changes to produce what is known as a gamma wave. Gamma wave is actually even faster than so-called beta wave, which all of us have. Not meditators. Meditators have more slow waves. But the super meditators, so-called, people with more than 20,000 hours of meditation or 60,000 hours of meditation, they have gamma waves. Gamma waves is believed to be the frequency for our consciousness. So people like Sri Ramakrishna or Vivekananda, who could go into deep samadhi in seconds, imagine that if you can create gamma waves in your brain just by 20,000 hours, what is the power of these people who could go into samadhi? So the brain becomes a super powerful. It's like you have a cheap radio and you're sitting in America. You want to hear Lata Mangeshkar in India. You cannot, because the radio doesn't have the power to catch. The radio might catch Voice of America, but it cannot catch Vivid Bharati in India. So you cannot hear that. So you need to have a radio which can catch the whole universe. As I said, like you cannot take 4 liters of milk in a small bowl. So these are the changes that we know now. Imagine the changes that we do not know. The other changes are like in 2010, as I said, mantra technique, japa, apa japa techniques, ujjayi breath, which is a type of pranayama where you take large breath. All these completely changes the brain, brain chemistry, brain functioning. I'm sorry, is somebody saying something?
No, some chat box there somebody is.
Sir, a doubt. Sir, which kumbhaka make more brain change? Means brain chemistry change. Is it Bahya kumbhaka or Antara kumbhaka?
Everything changes. Kumbhaka is just holding breath. So you can hold breath at the height of breath, or you can hold breath, as you said, at the end of breath. But kumbhaka will come through meditation, through pranayama practice. It will come. But breath change is there even with the ujjayi breath. When you practice a simple ujjayi breath, there are changes in the brain. It's not restricted to only when you do kumbhaka. And kumbhaka is a practice that comes with long-term practice of pranayama when you stop breathing. And that's what you reach a stage of samadhi. But yeah, it's not only with kumbhaka, even normal breathing can changes your brain.
Sir, in your slide, one of the figures you showed of respected Babaji, can you explain what is that mudra? That is a combination of 3 mudras, and what is it actually being done in that pose?
Yeah, so when you combine Jalandhara mudra is you block your you use your chin to block the thyroid gland, as well as you block the passage of Sushumna here, and then you pull in your rectum where your Muladhara is up, and then you press on the stomach. These 3 bandhas, totally what it does, it pushes it forces the kundalini to go through the Sushumna. There are the 2 other nadis, as you know, but it will push it to go through the Sushumna, and that's how you raise your energy. Along with that, if we do Khechari mudra, which is you put the tongue back and you block the passages. A lot of people may not be able to do it, and it is not a must that you have to do it. But if you block the tongue against your palate, what it happens is you push the kundalini up through the Sushumna chakra. So that's what you do. So Kriya Yoga basically is a practice where you activate directly the different chakras directly. And that's why it's a powerful technique. And this is one of the techniques by which you do it. There are a couple of other techniques, but of course, before that, it needs refinement. I mean, I just brought this up today because I think most of the people here are either physicians or PhDs or sannyasis. So I brought this up. Generally, I don't show this to common people. But there are these techniques. There are many other techniques that can activate this. But of course, before that, there are other breathing techniques that is taught in Kriya Yoga to fine-tune your brain before you do this. It's not a good idea to push and activate your kundalini without fine-tuning your brain. It's like you can carry 10 volts. I suddenly give somebody 40,000 volts. I mean, Vivekananda was born possibly Shiva. So when Sri Ramakrishna gave him 40,000 volts, it didn't matter to him. But to people like me, it'll burn my brain. So you first have to create that brain, and then I think these are the techniques that can be used, yes.
So one more question. Are you aware of any scientific studies on the physiology and the brain changes during Kumbhaka?
I am not, because Kumbhaka, as I said, there are two different types of Kumbhaka. And most of the Kumbhaka that you see, there's a difference between Yogi Kumbhaka and non-Yogi Kumbhaka. So I take a deep breath and I stop it. That is Kumbhaka done with my practice. And I leave the breath and I then hold breath. That is Kumbhaka. Yogi Kumbhaka is not that. People like Swami Vivekananda and all, when they went into Kumbhaka, or Buddha, when they have gone into Kumbhaka, their practice of pranayama brought the energy to such a high level that they did not need to breathe. They are like animals who can, there are people who can stay under the ground without breathing for ages. We don't know them because they don't come out. They don't, unlike some of the gurus today, they don't have their name all over the social media because they don't care. But there are tons of these people sitting in the Himalayas who have all this power. So that Kumbhaka does not come with a day of practice. That comes with years and years of practice. So if I do Kumbhaka and you see the changes, those changes are not the real changes. Because I am forcing my breath by doing that. I am forcing breath. I am not going into Kumbhaka. So that is the difference between yogic Kumbhaka and Kumbhaka that you and I are normally doing. I mean, not you and I am doing. You are more powerful than me. My prayers go to you because you are a sannyasi. But it is a difference to understand that how will you, certain things like, for example, cancer drugs. Cancer drugs don't go through research. Even a country like America, which is very strict in allowing drugs, they allow cancer drugs with any research. Why? Because it is immoral. If somebody has cancer, it is immoral to try a drug on one person and not try a drug on another person. Because so cancer drugs are allowed as long as they can prove that in animals, and they are allowed. So there are tons of experimental drugs. Try to do the same thing, say for asthma or for diabetes, you'll go to jail. You cannot use that. Similarly, you cannot do research on Kumbhaka because those people who really achieve Kumbhaka, they are not going to come down. And second question is, the root of yoga is, yesterday I was giving a talk and I was showed from a film, the root of yoga is belief. If you don't see, if you want to continue to fool yourself and say, these are rituals, these are this, these are, you're an idiot. And I don't even spend my time on those people because if you're, see, these people are idiot not because they want to be. They are idiot because of their past karmas. You cannot change past karma, past birth. So God will take care of them. I have no time to waste my time on them because that's why we wrote this book. This book is written by people from Harvard who are not from India. They don't understand yoga. They don't understand Hinduism. And 79 of them. So they are all Christians, I mean, by religion. Actually, they don't even believe in Christianity now because the problem with Christianity, I accept Jesus is my God. And then my question is then, who is Jesus' father? I mean, in a universe where universes are being created every second, there are multiple universes, stars, billions of stars. By the time I started talking, and now billions of stars finished, multiple black holes are created. Couple of days back, now there's a new concept have come that maybe we are living inside a black hole. Because James Webb telescope, the first telescope, which is a radio telescope, has come up with findings that has trashed 100 years of science. Of course, the Big Bang has gone to dogs. Big Bang doesn't even exist. And there are a lot of other things have come, which makes us believe that we might be actually living inside a black hole. But anyway, those are different concepts. We can't talk about that. But the fact is that it's your samskara who makes you a believer and non-believer. That's why Buddha said it is a royal path. You have to walk through that path. If there was somebody called Shiva, he walked through that path, you also have to walk. There's no favoritism. This is not, I'm Prime Minister's son and I'm Prime Minister's nephew, so I get a job and you don't get a job. Nothing like that. This is the creation of the universe. Even God has walked through it, you have to walk through it. There is no special layer for anybody. So that's where we have to understand that a lot of things in yoga is not testable, because what we test is a poor representation. But those tests, whatever we do, shows the power. Imagine 20,000 hours is nothing. If their brain can be so powerful, what is the brain of Sri Ramakrishna or Gautama Buddha or Swami Vivekananda?
Swami Vivekananda is said to have allowed himself to be tested in samadhi. We don't know what are the instruments they used. Even
Yeah.
Sri Ramakrishna, the doctors at that time said, we have no answer. As far as we are concerned, he is clinically dead.
Correct. No, see, these people are so stupid. I'll tell you, and I've talked this in a couple of places. So when the whole night, Swami Vivekananda said he's going to meditate and not disturb. The morning when they went, they saw his body and he was sitting in posture, and they found a speck of blood on top of this. So this idiot said, this guy, he must have had a heart attack or stupid, he doesn't understand. And that is the way, I mean, in Kriya Yoga, there are techniques, Thukkar Kriya, where you can bring out your body. And we have that all our history, we have it with Adi Shankara. He brought out his body and went in the king's body. So that is the technique which advanced yogis use to get their physical body out. That's why he had a small speck here. And you have our great scientists now. I mean, great, especially in India, you have the stupid scientists who say, oh, no, but that must have been some sort of a... No, that is because this is the anterior fontanelle. That is the softest part. If you go and pressing our brain, it's all tight. Only one part is this soft part, and that's where you can bring out your physical body. If you have to give up this physical body and you go. That's what Vivekananda did. It's as clear as crystal as anything else. So that shows the power of the Mahayogi, that they have the power to take out their physical, come out of their physical body. But I think these is slowly being understood by the West. And because West is understanding, a lot of so-called scientists in India who are always like monkeys, they will do whatever West does, which is a tragedy. West is now falling at the feet of these people like Gautama Buddha, Adi Shankara, and Swami Vivekananda. But these guys will talk about all nonsense. But now they're slowly understanding, because West is understanding. And not only this book, we are coming with the second book by Elsevier. Elsevier writes all the top books, cardiology books you see behind me, they're all by Elsevier. Our second book is coming out by Elsevier on this also, which is also written by almost 50 authors. So our job, Swamiji, my guru told me that I need to be a doctor, I need to be a cardiologist, I need to bring the science of yoga to the common people, because next generation is going to be science, is going with AI and other things, science is going to dominate. So that is what my job is, Swamiji, and I need your blessings for that, because we have to go to every IIT, we have to go to every university and bring out the science. So I want to stop people saying that I am a Hindu because my father was a Hindu. They should say, I am proud to be a Hindu because this is the most scientific religion in the world. The amount of science that has been reached by these gurus is unbelievable, unbelievable. Because, as I said, scientist looks at a root, goes to the trunk, and then sees the tree. Yogi sees the entire tree in one sense. So that's where we need to go. I hope that explains why we can't do research at Kumbhaka, Swamiji.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll wrap here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna